Good morning, everybody. The kids have now gone to school. I am here in this house on my own with the dogs. I can get on with stuff for the first time in 6 weeks, and I'm quite excited. I've just been going through some of your comments on the previous couple of videos that I put up. Thank you so much for all of them. There are so many. I always try my best to go through and at least like the comment just to show you that I have read it. I always try my hardest to at least do that. I try and reply to as many as I can as well. So thank you for those. Keep them coming. I really enjoy the process of going through them. Today, just quickly before we go out, I'm going to go and take the dogs for a walk in a minute. A story that cropped up in German media. Haven't seen it anywhere else yet, but that's saying that the FIA have banned Ferrari from putting that dry ice bag on top of their overhead camera. And I know a few of you have asked me questions about this in the past. There is a genuine reason that you could want to cool that camera. That overhead camera is a sophisticated piece of kit. It contains very high powered antennas, it contains video encoders, it contains telemetry, and of course the camera itself. And the teams use that data for their own analysis. So Ferrari have said in the past that they use the onboard video footage, quite detailed high resolution footage. They use that in their own analysis, and so there is a requirement to keep that overhead camera cool. There is a large amount of heat build up inside that thing because of all the equipment that's packed into it, and so you know the FOM who run the onboard camera side of things do advise the teams to keep them cool, or to prevent them from overheating rather, and Ferrari have taken that and used it as a reason to then start putting this bag on top. The point of controversy here is that Ferrari, every time they put that bag of dry ice on top of the overhead camera, they put it so it covers the lens of the camera very, very deliberately. They're trying to hide the steering wheel settings. They're trying to hide the display messages on the dashboard, the driver display, from being broadcast. Particularly when they're on the grid and when they're in the garage. So there's some quite sensitive settings and processes that they have that they want to keep secret. So they've been using this as a kind of means to prevent that happening. The FIA have said no, that's not happening. That onboard camera is there for FOM to share these pictures and images around the world. We want to be more open, so you're not allowed to do it anymore. So that's that. So we're not going to see that. Certainly not going to see it covering the lens anymore, I think. And the argument, of course, is that nobody else has any issues and they don't do it, so you don't have to do it either. So that's that one hopefully put to bed. Right, I'm going to quickly take the dogs out, and I will have a look through today's stories and some of your questions, and come back and chat to you in a bit. Right, we're back. Love doing these morning walks, especially in this weather. Right, so I was just flicking through my phone, and a couple of people, excuse me buddy, a couple of people have asked about the Force India situation. And there was one question, what was it? Abhimanyu Sadaful, I hope I've pronounced your name right, says, could you make a video explaining why Force India didn't keep their championship points? I'm not sure it needs an entire video, to be fair, but I will answer it because lots of people have raised questions about this. The point is that when Force India went into administration and were then subsequently bought as an entity by Lawrence Stroll and his group of investors, they didn't buy everything, including the entry with the FIA. And it's the entry that's lodged with the FIA which is recognised as the team. So the team name, the team entry, is something that is paid for, bought up front before a season, and is lodged with the FIA. So when the company that owned that entry, which is the company owned by Vijay Mallya, Roy Sahara, and I think some others as well, when that company went into administration, was essentially collapsed and was known that company doesn't exist anymore, they also took with them, or took down with them, the entry into the Formula One World Championship for Sahara Force India. So when Lawrence Stroll and his mates came along and thought they'd bought everything, what they'd only bought was the assets, the equipment, the cars, the factory, you know, the contracts with engine manufacturers, those kind of things. They hadn't bought the official entry, so they had to buy a brand new entry into the FIA Formula One World Championship. And that meant that the FIA had their hands tied on this. They couldn't just say, go on, you can keep the points. They had to go by the rule book. They had to give them a brand new entry, which meant giving them 0 points and starting from fresh. If they didn't do that, it just wouldn't be fair on any other new entrants coming in. And the other point is that with engines, because this is another thing, that the engine allocation, because we're limited on power unit parts, of course, in this current modern era, the Force India drivers, of course, have used a certain amount of elements throughout this season. If that was reset to 0, they would essentially have an unfair advantage for the second half of the season. So because there was no rule on this, it hasn't been done before, the FIA had to essentially dream up what they thought was fair, and they have decided, and I don't think we can argue with this, that they will keep their engine allocation from the first half of this season. So I think that's fair. So they carry on with their engine allocation, they're assigned to the driver, and I hope that makes a bit of sense for everybody. It was a very complicated situation, and I think the biggest thing we've all got to take out of it is that the 400 plus people working at that organisation have managed to keep their jobs, and hopefully there is a long-term secure future now in place for them. Right, unbelievably, I still haven't had my first coffee of the morning, and it is now, my goodness, it's nearly 11 o'clock. That is unprecedented, I can tell you. It's amazing that I've survived this long. So that's what I'm going to go and do now. So much better. Can't tell you what good this does for me. And don't write in to tell me actually it's doing me bad. I know all of the bad stuff about caffeine. This helps me, believe me. Right, can anybody out there explain how aviation pricing, air travel pricing works? Because I'm baffled. Today is a day where I've got to book a number of flights. There are, I think, 4 different flights that I need to sort and book today. I had a look last week but didn't book them. I have looked, so 2 different airlines. I looked today, one of those airlines, the price has dropped dramatically, so I'm leaping on to book right now. The other one, the flight, around a similar period of time, gone up by nearly double from where it was when I looked last week. How does that work? What is the algorithm that airlines use? What logic is behind whether the price goes up or down as it gets nearer to the actual flight date? I mean, please, just anybody help me out. I have just no idea how this works. So just scanning the news sites today, there's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. When there's not a race happening in Formula One, so no race, of course, this weekend, all of the little other stories that often get pushed down the order, bubble away in the background, start to rise to the surface. Fernando Alonso has completed his IndyCar test. Now, I think this is the precursor to his announcement that he will indeed compete in IndyCar next year. Whether that is with I mean, there was lots of talk, there has been lots of talk about whether McLaren will run their own team in IndyCar next year. My feeling is that they're not going to do that. My feeling is they need to focus on Formula One, and I think they appreciate that. They're starting to put lots of different structures in place, and there's nothing to say they won't run an IndyCar team in the future. I just wonder if they will put Fernando Alonso, or whether this is linked even to McLaren, Fernando Alonso will run his first season in IndyCar with Andretti, perhaps, just to get the feel for it, to learn the ropes, to bed himself in before potentially McLaren putting together a team in the background to launch the following season. Maybe, just speculation. But I think we're pretty close now to an announcement for Fernando Alonso as to what he'll be doing next year when he leaves Formula One. What else have we got? Just quickly before I go, Lewis Hamilton says that we will miss Kimi Räikkönen when he goes. Isn't that true? If Kimi is going at the end of this season, which is looking more and more likely now, he is going to be missed by Formula One greatly. And that's not just about his driving. I still stand by the fact that when I was working with Kimi back in the mid-2000s, he was the fastest, the best driver that I had ever worked with at that time. He was the top of his game. He was unbelievable when he jumped inside a racing car. I mean, even the engineers who'd worked with Mika and even people who'd worked with Senna at McLaren will tell you at that time that Kimi Raikkonen was one of the fastest drivers, an unbelievable talent. Yes, you know, things have moved on and he's aged and he's perhaps not quite as sharp as he used to be. He's still an incredibly good driver. He's still doing good things for Ferrari. There are lots of reasons why he's not matching Vettel. Anyway, the biggest thing we will miss about Kimi Raikkonen is his personality, because so many of the current Formula One drivers are a bit kind of corporate, a bit robotic, a bit devoid of personality. Or more to the point, Formula One or their Formula One teams don't allow those personalities to shine. Kimi Raikkonen doesn't care what any Formula One team tells him he has to be like. He will be Kimi Raikkonen, and that's what we love. We will miss those radio messages. We will miss those TV interviews, the press conferences, the moments in the pen when he's talking to Natalie Pinkham or Lee McKenzie. Those moments are TV gold, and the reason that we all love Kimi so much, he's got one of the biggest fan bases globally around the world, I think just shy of Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso in terms of popularity. And it's ironic that the one thing that has made him so popular is the one thing he hates most about Formula One, the media. Anyway, so I've got to agree with Lewis Hamilton there. We will miss Kimi. But anyway, let's wait and see how that pans out. Right, I'm going to go and try and book these flights. I've just set a reminder in my phone to go and pick the kids up from school, because I've got absolutely no doubt that once I get into all this stuff, I will absolutely forget to go and do it. So hopefully I won't. Hopefully you guys will have a good day. Please do comment on the video. I do enjoy them, and as I said at the beginning, thank you very much for all of them. I go through them all and I really enjoy it. It's a great part of my evening that I do spend a bit of time going through them. So thank you, keep them coming. Let me know what you think on any of the topics that I've covered. Any more questions, I'll try and answer them, and I will see you tomorrow.